Welcome to another exciting episode of Cooking in OKC. I'm your host, Ish, and today we're going to be making vegetarian enchiladas. This recipe that I'm going to be showing you all today is really easy to do. Should take maybe an hour, hour and 10 minutes if you're doing it all consecutively, but a lot of that time is going to be baking time. So come on in the kitchen and I'll show you the things that you're going to need in order to make vegetarian enchiladas. First, we'll go over the produce items. You're going to need 2 medium-sized jalapenos, or mine are kind of small because they've been grown in my own garden, so I have 4 small jalapenos here. You need about 2.5 or 3 cups of potatoes. I'm using baby gold potatoes and red skin potatoes. I prefer these to the russets because of the flavor that they provide. Next, you'll need half of 1 onion. You can use yellow or red. 1 large bell pepper. 2 tomatoes. And now for the non-produce type of ingredients. You'll need 1 tablespoon of butter. 1 package of taco seasoning. Tortillas, burrito size. 1 pound of cheese, that's a half pound of cheese, 1 can of green enchilada sauce, and 1 can black beans. Okay, we're going to start by taking our potatoes that we've already washed, and we're just going to start dicing those up. I'm not going to sit here and have you all watch me dice all of these, but it's important that when you're dicing, you curl your fingers so that you don't lop off a finger. Or, you know, worse, just cut yourself. But we're going to dice up all the potatoes. Next, I'm going to dice up the onion and the bell pepper. The reason why we're dicing these 3 things first is because they're all going to go into our pan with the butter. And then we're going to saute those until the potatoes are a little bit soft, while we do a lot of other things. So we're just going to dice all this up, and I'll bring you back in once everything here is chopped up. Okay, so I've nearly finished chopping everything up, but I wanted to show you all a quick and easy way to chop an onion. So notice I have the onion with stem side still intact, cut directly down the middle. Okay, I've already removed the outer layers of the skin that I don't want in my food. What we're going to do, I'll turn this way so you can see me, is I'm just going to slice down like this, not all the way to the end, but nearly to the stem part. Be really careful right here so that you don't cut yourself. Okay, so now I've sliced laterally across the entire onion. Using my knuckle as a guide, I'm now just going perpendicular to those cuts. Also, another tip for onions is that if you are prone to crying from onions, refrigerating your onions will help some of the sulfides not be as pungent, but you have the trade-off of not having as good a flavor in your onions by refrigerating them, because those sulfides are what give the onion their flavor. So if you are prone to crying from onion, refrigerate your onion and you'll not have a problem. As you can see right now, I'm doing pretty well. Okay, let's get this started in the skillet. Cooking on a medium to low medium heat, add your butter and begin to saute all of the vegetables. While your vegetables are beginning to saute, go ahead and start chopping up your tomatoes now so that you can get this step out of the way. We're going to follow something very similar to the method that we chopped up the onion. We're going to cut the tomato in half long ways, and then we're going to dice down the sides and then cut perpendicular to those cuts. Personally, I like Roma tomatoes the best. I think that they have a lot of meat or a lot of flesh in the tomato. and not so much water. So I think that they provide an excellent tomato for just about everything. I almost always use Roma tomatoes. We're just going to set those tomatoes into our glass bowl and continue chopping these up. Okay, all of our tomatoes are chopped, so we're just going to set this inside the fridge so that they stay nice and fresh. Also, now is the time that we chop our jalapenos. Notice I didn't chop the jalapenos and put them into the mix that's sauteing. That's because my wife doesn't like spicy food, and we're also cooking for a lot of her family who may or may not like spicy food as well. So we're just going to set these aside on the chopping board after they've already been cut. We're cutting them last so that none of the spiciness got on the tomatoes or anything. We're just about finishing up dicing the jalapenos here. We're just going to go ahead and try one of these bad boys at the hottest spot to see just how hot they are. Yeah, I got a little kick on them. You can tell last night's rain didn't do much to cool these off in the garden. But we've got this much jalapeno, and we're just going to set that aside, and I'm going to get a little milk or sour cream or something. Okay, by now the burning should have subsided in your mouth, and your vegetables should be looking like this. They've been cooking now for close to 10 minutes, and if you notice, the green of the bell pepper is not as green as it was before. The potatoes are starting to, the onion is starting to take on a translucent look. You can almost see through them. And the potatoes have become faded white. So now, taking our colander, we're going to dump in our can of black beans, straining the juice, which has a lot of the sodium that it's preserved in. This has 400 milligrams of sodium. We're just gonna wash a lot of that off of these beans because there's no reason to have that in our food. And now we're gonna add the beans to the sauteed vegetables. So come on, let's go do that. Okay, our beans have just about had enough time to heat up, and following the instructions on the seasoning packet, we need 2/3 cup water and then the seasoning packet. I'm just going to add this in real quick and then stir it and show you all. Okay, that looks like we're nearly done. Yeah. Let's go ahead and turn off our heat. Perfect. Now we're going to let this cool for a couple of minutes so that it's easy to use. Okay, we've moved the mixture over into this large glass bowl. It's still pretty hot, so I don't want to mess with it right now. So let's do a couple of things. Let's take our cheese and add about 2 to 3 ounces of this cheese into the mix while it's still hot. Okay, so our mixture is beginning to cool off, which means that it's going to be easy for us to use without burning our fingers. So I'm just going to take these tortillas and microwave them for about 30 seconds. There's 10 here, so I want them to be hot enough that they're pliable, but not so hot that we actually burn them. Okay, I'm taking the tortillas out. They're a little bit softer now, a little easier to use. Now I've got about an hour and a half before my friends and family are going to arrive for dinner. So rather than preheating the oven now, I'm just going to make these and set them in the fridge. But now would be a good time to preheat your oven. Set it to 375 degrees, and then you're going to bake for 35 minutes. Remember to cover this in foil because you're going to have a bunch of cheese layered over these. So you don't want to burn the cheese at the top. The last thing we need to add to the mix is the green enchilada sauce. Now I like to take a little bit of this sauce and pour just the tiniest bit into the bottom of the pan. I'm just going to spread it around here with my fingers. The reason why we're doing this is so that the bottom of the tortillas stay moist and you get a little bit of the enchilada sauce in with every bite. But let's first get to how to stuff these. Okay, so I've done 6 of my 10 enchiladas for the family. Now we're going to add a lot of the jalapenos, leaving just a few outside, and I'll explain why later. We're going to mix the jalapenos into the remainder of this mix. So the reason why I left a few of the jalapenos out is so that I can set those jalapenos on top of the enchiladas and on top of the cheese, so that my family knows, hey, these enchiladas have jalapenos in them, and nobody gets burned when they don't want to. Alright, now I'm just going to stuff the last 4 of these. We're going to take the remainder of the green sauce, just going to kind of pour it over the enchiladas. Make sure that you're getting the edge of the burritos. This is where it'll stick to the pan if the edges aren't moist. Use just a little bit of water. There we go. Okay, my cheese first. Here's the other probably 5, 6 ounces of cheese going over the top of these. If you have kids, this is a great part. The rolling part and the cheese and the sauce, this is a great part to get them involved in, because this is actually how I got started cooking. I would come in and help and want to eat all the stuffing and, you know, lick the bowl and stuff, and then get conscripted into moving the cheese around so that my mom didn't have to get her fingers dirty. Okay, and I'm just putting the jalapenos over the 3 that are spicy, and that's it. We'll now bake this for about 35 minutes on 375 degrees.